Hello and welcome to the Collapse Experiment. If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. Because if you don't, I'm just going to keep saying this at the beginning of every video. How dare you? Ever wonder what it's like to think like an economist? Well, I had a feeling that was going to change a few things in my life when I decided I was going to actually take a course on how to think like an economist. And no, this is not like Wall Street trades or going to a casino. Actually, those two are pretty much the same thing. No. This is like financially securing your money and assets is basically what an economist does. They can also look at markets. Speculators, kind of a different thing, but with an economist, what they're trying to do is they're trying to see like what they think is either going to keep its value or potentially go up in value. A lot of economists are not rich people. That's one thing that they point out in the first course. And the course that I ended up taking was from the Great Courses. No, this is not a paid advertisement. I actually bought this thing. And I'm such a cheap ass because apparently I was thinking like an economist when I picked this thing up anyways. Back in the day, I used to get catalogs in the mail for the Great Courses. These paper things that they would send out, like the Sears catalog, if you're old enough to remember that. Good Lord, when did they stop making those? Anyways, they would have these deals in there because the Great Courses it was that time period where they're constantly switching over from like, man, did they do VHS tapes? They had cassette tapes, they had CDs. I don't remember if they had VHS or not, but you could buy these. They were basically college courses that were available. And when I was getting stuff from the catalog, it was CDs and DVDs. And because they're gradually switching over to digital, they would end up with a surplus of like CDs, which was fine for me because that meant I could listen to the damn thing in my car. Awesome. If it's like a 15, 20-minute course, on the way to work. So that was what I ended up doing. I would look and I would see like what deals they had going on in there. And they had one that was thinking like an economist, and it was one of the cheaper ones. It was a shorter course. It was available on CD, so I picked it up. And then I started listening to it. And there was a lot of things that I learned, but then there was a lot of things that I had already known or figured out that they just reestablished in my head. Because there's going to be times in your life where you start thinking about something and you think you have a pretty good understanding, and then some idiot at work is like, no, man, that's stupid. You got to consider blah, blah, fill in the blank, right? And one of them was, and this was one of the first courses in the series, where he talks about how the lottery is a tax on people who can't do math. Because they also look at the odds, right? Or the rate of return. How many dollars do you have to put into something in order to get either that amount or more back? Well, the lottery is one of those that if you just keep buying a lottery ticket, the odds are pretty good you're just never going to win. And I'm not talking about scratch-offs or any of that stuff. It applies to those too. Because a lot of the time, and I just saw a video on YouTube where somebody was doing this, where she would buy a lottery ticket. And she's like, hey, I won $10. So then she trades in that lottery ticket for another lottery ticket. Hey, I won 20. And then by the end of it, she's like, hey, I won 150. You know she's going to take that ticket and cash it in for more. And what happens if those are all losers? Well, she still has zero money in the end, except for what she handed over. She could have had 150, but no, she decided to go all the way for that. So that was one thing. Another thing I can tell you is that when you do start taking courses like this and you start learning and expanding your mind, I would encourage you not to talk to your coworkers about it or your friends and family. Why do I say this? Well, at one place I was working years ago, everybody on their lunch break would go across the street to the local convenience store, and they're not making any more money than me, right? And a lot of them have been doing the same job for 15, 20 years. And they go across the street and buy lottery tickets. And I'm thinking to myself, you already work in a government building that taxes you on what they pay you, which is freaking weird, right? Now you're just handing over more money to the government because they know that whoever's buying these scratch offs are essentially just handing over money. But no, like, you can't. And they've been doing it for so long. At that point, there's that emotional connection with having that investment put in, hoping for a return. Occasionally you get a return, but it's like, hey, I won $20. You spent $150 on scratch offs in the last 3-4 weeks. Just saying, you didn't really win anything and you didn't really get your money back. But no, that's the thing with things like the lottery, is that the people who do it, they focus on that stimulation of like, holy crap, I won, while not doing the math of how much did they spend in order to get that. They don't make lottery tickets so that they can just hand over money to winners. No, it's a source of income for the state. And they're not going they're not going to have all these winners out there that the state's just going to hand money to. It's a scam. It's all a scam. But that's one of the things that they talked about in this course. And they also talk about whether you should do stocks, whether you should do bonds. I don't think they really get into precious metals. I don't remember that. But they talk about like having assets and how do you evaluate assets and trying to figure out whether or not something's going to go up or down in value. And no, it really makes you think about stuff. And in a sense, there's one person I heard recently, and they might have talked about this in the course as well. Thinking of your money as how many hours you spent working to get that thing you're now going to buy. Would you work your job for 2 hours in order to pay for fill in the blank? If you think about how much work you put into something, when you go to buy something, do you feel like that's a fair trade? That's one way of looking at things. Another thing that they talk about are the interest rates and the APR and the financing and what's a good rate and what's not a good rate, when it's time to save money as opposed to spending money. So for the last 20 years, we've had almost 0% interest. Well, maybe not 20, like 15 years, ever since 2009, when the economy just went to. So during that time, it was a great time in order to risk spending money on possibly earning more money. It was not a good time to save money, because your money in the savings account, due to inflation, the rate of inflation, and what the interest return was, you're actually losing money by having money in the savings account. But as of today, with 5-6% interest going on with like mortgages and all this stuff, and getting a return on your savings account now is not the time to go out and buy something like a house. I will admit that. Is this financial advice? No, I'm just an idiot on the internet. But in my opinion, now is not the time. The time was a couple years ago. It was seriously a couple years ago. As of right now, it sucks for people who own houses who are trying to sell them because the interest rate is so high that the monthly payment is going to knock people out of being able to afford it. And the thing is, the interest rate does not help the person selling the house. The person selling the house has that lump sum. The bank is planning on making money off of whoever buys the house for the next 30 years from the interest rate. That's how that works. So they're just constantly screwing the buyer. And now that the interest rates are up, the mortgage companies and the banks are making a killing. Now is not the time. You can sell, but keep in mind, as long as you're, unless you're taking that money from the house that you're selling to buy another one in cash, you're just hurting yourself. If your house is paid off, keep it. Same thing with cars. Cars are outrageous. The monthly car payments are just insane. I've seen some videos out there lately where people are like, yeah, well, between my car and the insurance, it's like $1,200 a month. What? And what do you do for a living? Do you live in your car? How big is your car? Is it a travel van? Like, what is happening? $1,200 a month? Good look. And that's like some of the lowball numbers I heard. Man, I was fighting with my car. I was fighting with the dealership of like, yeah, it'd be cooler if I could get it around like 200. And the guy kept going down. He's like crossing this off and doing the math over here. And he's like, 205. And I'm like, I don't know, man. It's still over 200. But yeah, $200 was a lot of money to me. And these people that just status. It's all about status. And like the one thing they talk about is a brand new car is only as valuable as the sticker price until it's driven off the lot. And then it loses God knows how much. Cars, they just reduce in value so drastically the moment you pull it off the lot. Yeah, it's crazy. So there are courses out there. If you want to learn how to think like an economist, I'm looking at the one that I took, and I'm telling you, I think I might have spent like 10 or 15 bucks on it on CD. And unfortunately, I don't even have it anymore. I listened to it. I learned a lot from it. I let a friend borrow it years ago. Never let anybody borrow anything unless you just plan on not getting it back. If you're going to miss it, keep it. So, on the great courses, the one I'm talking about is Thinking Like an Economist, A Guide to Rational Decision Making. Unfortunately, the instant video is $169. $170. Let's just say that. And then there's the you can subscribe and stream. But one thing I will tell you, because we're talking about economics and saving money, is that the Great Courses is also available through a lot of libraries. And I'm not just talking about like the DVDs or the CDs, although your local library probably has some of those as well. But a lot of libraries have digital online media such as Hoopla and Libby. And what the libraries do is money goes towards these apps that provide audiobooks and digital books. And as with Hoopla, they have what they call passes, where you're allowed to check out X amount of items per month. And instead of getting an audiobook, you can get a pass to the Great Courses and watch and listen to as many of their classes as you like for a certain period of time. So if your library has Hoopla, there's a good chance that they're going to have the great courses available, and they might have this class. They've got dozens of them on there. Not everything from the actual Great Courses website is available. It's just what they offer onto Hoopla, pretty much as like a promotional thing. But you can do entire courses. I did the Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire, uh, which was pretty. That was like, I want to say it was like 30 some classes, sessions, hour long things to listen to. I did that one years ago. And I do tend to enjoy the great courses just because it's pretty much taking your average college course at home when you want. There's no freaking test. You're basically going to be listening to things that you're interested in learning about anyways, right? So you're not paying somebody. You don't have to leave your house. You're not driving there. There's no cost in gas. You don't have to buy supplies or the teacher's piece of shit textbook that he's just profiting off of. Yeah, you're also required to buy my book. Yeah, this one right here. You can get it over in the local campus bookstore. And if you don't have it and you don't answer the questions about this on the test that have nothing to do with the class I'm actually teaching, I will flunk you. Yeah, this thing cuts out all the bullshit. Yeah. So anyways, that is thinking like an economist, and I only touched on the surface of like all the stuff I ended up learning years ago while taking this. And again, like take it, learn from it, apply it. It will probably help a lot of people out financially and in future decision making. One of the other things they brought up was this idea of buying insurance on something at the store. Like when you buy a new blender and the cashier says, hey, for an extra $5, we can add on this insurance so that if it breaks in the next 2 to 3 years, blah, 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 blah. They also do this at like electronic stores, right? Like you buy a stereo, whatever. And the thing that they'll also say is, well, it's only available now, so you can't come back and buy the insurance. Like if you get the insurance, it's only now. Like tomorrow you can't get it. The thing is, they do that because in your mind you're thinking, well, there's a risk here of what if I get home and this thing doesn't work? Which shouldn't apply to insurance anyways because you just return the item. Hey, you sold me this broke piece of junk that's supposed to be brand new. The other thing that they point out in this course is when they put you on the spot like that, like it's only available now, you can only get it now, you're not going to get your phone out and start searching for other insurance programs that you can get for the exact same item and have that added to for a cheaper price. That's the thing. So a lot of times these gimmicks are done because they'll offer you something at a rate higher than you would pay elsewhere if you wanted that actual service anyways. And then yeah, later on you'll end up finding, oh, I could have gotten that for $10-15 cheaper. This is, yeah. And that's why they put you on the spot like that. So the course points out a lot of things, a lot of fraud. I would consider that fraud. And yeah, it helps you navigate through financial decisions that otherwise nobody freaking teaches you how to do. So that's how to think like an economist. Keep on typing.